All right. All right. This is Paul Leslie, Dr. Paul Leslie, your instructor for PME 815. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about Module 3, Digital Justice. Uh, so this assignment really is to help you be more critical and think more strategically about the technology tools that you are using in your classroom because they're all quite intertwined. So some of the things we'll look at is to describe barriers and inequalities, both social, cultural, and based in the technology that we have, especially when we're using digital tools to make sure that our students can actually access everything that we're sharing with them. Uh, you're going to learn a little bit more about how to avoid implementing or creating barriers, and how to design accessible, inclusive, and justice-oriented online spaces. So a lot of this, I use the term bias quite a bit to really highlight that we all have a perspective of bias. And as I've pointed out in some of my announcements, we often think of if we see media that aligns with our thoughts or our ideas, we think it's unbiased, when really it's simply reflecting our own bias. When we see things conversely that are different than our opinion, we think that that's heavily biased, when really it's just another type of bias. So we can't really escape that bias. So what I think we really need to do is own our bias, admit our bias, and put it out there for others to see. As Paulo Freire comments, the liberated educator puts their ideas out there for others to see and then accepts all comments thereon. So we need to be willing to put our ideas out there, bias and all, own that bias, and then work with it. So we're going to look at in the assignment the digital tools as well. So how do we use them in a blended or hybrid and fully online context, such as you are in right now? What barriers do we have? So there's some design for poor. You'll read about that. I'm not going to talk about those elements. A bit about intellectual property, and then you'll come to the assignment. So you're going to create a vlog, a video blog, or a blog post based on some topic. And you're going to design that post so that it matches some accessibility elements uh, and on a topic that is part of within your context. So I'll try to be very clear on what you're going to design here. So let me just say up front, one thing you're doing is a blog, or could be situated in another learning platform. Someone wrote to me this morning and said they're already using a platform with their students. So that's perfectly fine. It doesn't really matter if it's behind a password protection or not. If it is for your students, that's great. And you're also going to then put a post in our discussion forum describing what you do. Also, we'll come back to that. So part of what we want you to think about, the accessibility piece, is really from here. And then the idea of digital justice is, again, putting your bias out there for all to see. I'm going to share a link to a clip on YouTube that talks about how Julius Caesar was a master of media and manipulation and using the media tools of his day to convey his success in Gaul. So I'll just share that as a thought that just because we're doing this now digitally, it's by no means a new concept. It's been around for as long as civilization has been around. So here are some of the topics. They could be on anything, but these are just some ideas to get you started if you're not sure what to focus on. And then as it says here, you do not necessarily have to agree with the content you engage with, but you should, again, highlight the bias in that topic. And if you were sharing this with your students, what should your students be aware of? What's the background of the presenter? If you're looking at some media source, who wrote it? And all of those things that help us understand what is the perspective of the people behind this. Is it paid? You know, you see a lot of things about like the food groups and diet, but then we discover the messages are sponsored by the Meat Association of Canada or the Chicken Growers Association or something. So we really need to be able to see what is the bias behind the information, because it's always there. It's always there. You just need to be able to identify it. And then in the discussion forum, you're going to respond to two of your peers' posts, and just to see their perspective and see if you can't draw out a bit more perspective or bias and share that with them. And as I've said in many of your feedback already, I give you permission to ask challenging questions of each other. That's what we do. That's what you need to do in these discussion forums to really make the best use of this particular type of media. So that's part of the assignment. Why are we doing this? To really understand how meaning is produced online and how culture is produced. So we can really, if you think about our neighbors to the south, for example, and their media, I mean, they have the best example of unbridled biased media almost anywhere in the world. I mean, they make no bones about who they're supporting. It's very easy to see their political bias and so forth, and how they try to influence the culture that way. It's really quite astounding. Be aware of issues related to accessibility, misrepresentation. So again, the accessibility is not only just purely the technical side, but how, when, timing of content and so forth. And then publish, it says here, make valuable contributions to the public knowledge. And one reason why I like to put these videos up on YouTube is then they're out there for anyone to see. Maybe it's highly focused on this particular assignment, but hopefully I'm saying something that might be of use to someone else at some point. So the outcomes, you'll be able to describe barriers and inequalities, how to avoid some of those barriers, and to learn and practice some design skills. So again, it's a little confusing here. So it says the blog post. So the blog or video log or whatever you put up for your assignment can be on whatever platform you want and should be appropriate to your teaching context. So if you're teaching grade 2, make sure it's something that your grade 2s will be interested to digest and interact with and at the appropriate length. When you do the on cue blog post for your peers, it says 500 to 800 words. Keep it to 500 and really think about and practice your own writing skills to be as concise as possible. And then don't forget to comment on two of your peers' blogs. I've talked for quite a bit here. I hope that's helpful. Again, please let me know if you have any questions at all.